Children see what adults have learned to ignore. They haven't yet developed the filters, the sophisticated blindness that allows grown-ups to walk past suffering without feeling it, to sort human beings into categories: worthy and unworthy, visible and invisible, real and inconvenient. Children look at the world and see what's actually there, which is why adults find them so uncomfortable. The Vanderbilt private bank on Park Avenue was not designed for children. It was designed for wealth, for power, for the quiet theater of money, so vast it no longer needed to prove itself. Marble floors imported from Italy, chandeliers that cost more than houses, a silence so thick it felt sacred, like a cathedral built to worship a different kind of God. Ryan Carter felt at home here, 39 years old, founder of Nexus Capital, a cryptocurrency empire worth $10 billion, a man who had learned early that the world belonged to those who took it, that sentiment was weakness, that the only number that mattered was the one in your account. He was waiting for a meeting. Quarterly review. The usual parade of charts and projections that meant nothing except that his money was making more money while he slept. He sat in the leather chair, scrolling through emails, aware that everyone in the room was aware of him. That was the thing about wealth. It had its own gravity. People orbited around it without even knowing why. The front door opened. Ryan didn't look up at first. Why would he? The door opened and closed 100 times a day. Important people coming to discuss important things with other important people. But the silence made him look. The lobby had gone quiet in a way that felt wrong. Not the respectful quiet of deference. The uncomfortable quiet of something that didn't belong. A boy stood just inside the entrance. 10 years old, maybe 11. Small for his age, with the kind of thinness that came from missed meals rather than genetics. Clothes that were dirty and too big. A jacket with sleeves that swallowed his hands. Jeans held up with a belt that had been notched past its last hole. Sneakers with holes near the toes. His hair was unwashed. His face was smudged. He carried a backpack that looked older than he was. He looked like he had walked out of a different city, a different world. The world that existed outside these marble walls, where people struggled and suffered and survived without ever touching the kind of money that lived in this building. The security guard moved immediately. "Hey kid, you can't be in here." The boy didn't run, didn't flinch. He stood his ground with a stillness that seemed too old for his body. "I have an account here." The guard almost laughed. "Sure you do. Come on, let's go. There's a shelter on 42nd Street if you need." "I have an account." The boy's voice was steady, clear, the voice of someone who had learned that panic was a luxury he couldn't afford. "I want to look at my balance." Ryan was watching now, coffee frozen halfway to his lips. Something about the boy's certainty made him pause, made everyone pause. A teller, a young woman with a smile designed to make rich clients feel welcome, approached with the careful steps of someone handling a situation. "Sweetheart, I think you might be confused. This is a private bank. Maybe you're looking for..." "I'm not confused." The boy reached into his backpack, pulled out a piece of paper, wrinkled and worn, folded so many times the creases had become permanent. "My dad gave me this before he died. He said when I needed help, I should come here. Show them this." He held out the paper. The teller took it with 2 fingers, the way someone might handle something contaminated. She unfolded it, read it. Her face changed. "I need to get the manager," she said. Her voice had lost its condescension. Something else had replaced it. Something that looked like fear. She disappeared into the back. The boy stood alone in the middle of the lobby, a small, dirty figure surrounded by marble and crystal and the accumulated wealth of generations. He didn't look scared. He looked tired, the kind of tired that had nothing to do with sleep. Ryan set down his coffee. He didn't know why, but he couldn't look away. There was something about this child, something in the way he held himself, the quiet dignity that shouldn't exist in someone so young, so clearly damaged by whatever life had done to him. The manager emerged from the back, a tall man in a perfect suit, the kind of person who had built his entire career on making wealthy clients feel important. He was not smiling. He walked directly to the boy, leaned down, spoke softly. "What's your name, son?" "Elijah Morgan." The manager's face went white. Ryan felt something shift. The air in the room changed, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Something was about to happen, and Ryan Carter, for all his billions, had no idea what it was. The manager's name was Hendricks. 23 years at Vanderbilt Private Bank. He had served clients worth hundreds of millions, had handled inheritances that would make headlines, had learned to keep his face neutral regardless of what appeared on his screen. But right now, his face was not neutral. "Elijah Morgan," he repeated. "Your father was David Morgan." The boy nodded. "And your mother?" "Gone. Before I can remember." Hendricks exchanged a glance with the teller. Something passed between them, a silent conversation that made Ryan lean forward in his chair. "Where are you living, Elijah?" The boy hesitated, the first crack in his composure. "Around." "Around where?" "Just around." Hendricks crouched down. His voice softened in a way that seemed almost painful for him. "When did your father pass away?" 6 months ago. "Cancer." "He was sick for a long time. And who's taking care of you now?" Elijah's jaw tightened. "I take care of myself." Ryan stood up. He didn't know why, didn't plan to. His legs just moved, carrying him toward the small circle that had formed around this boy who shouldn't exist in this building. "What's going on here?" Hendricks looked up. His expression shifted when he recognized Ryan, the automatic deference that came with $10 billion. "Mr. Carter, this is a sensitive situation." "I can see that." "What kind of sensitive?" Hendricks hesitated. "Client confidentiality, bank protocols, the 100 reasons he shouldn't say anything." "But Ryan Carter wasn't a man you said no to." "The boy claims to have an account with us. His father was David Morgan." The name meant nothing to Ryan. "Should I know who that is?" "David Morgan was one of our founding clients. He opened an account in transferred his entire Bitcoin holdings into a trust for his son." Hendricks lowered his voice. "At the time, it was worth approximately $40,000. Ryan did the math instantly. 10 Bitcoin at pennies. If Morgan had held, how much is it worth now?" Hendricks didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked to the nearest terminal, typed in a series of codes. His hands were shaking slightly. The screen filled with numbers. Ryan looked and stopped breathing. 2,347,800. The security guard who had tried to throw Elijah out was pressed against the wall, face pale. Even the air seemed to have stopped moving. Ryan turned to the boy. "Elijah, did you know about this? Did you know how much was in the account?" Elijah shook his head slowly. "Dad just said it was enough to take care of me forever. He made me memorize the account number, made me promise not to tell anyone, not Uncle Richard, not Aunt Sarah, no one." "Why not?" Something dark crossed the boy's face. "Old pain, fresh wound." "Because they were already taking everything else." The story came out in fragments. David Morgan had been sick for 2 years. During that time, his brother Richard and sister-in-law Sarah had moved in to help. They had convinced David to sign over power of attorney, had drained his regular bank accounts, sold his house, taken his car. By the time David died, there was nothing left, nothing they knew about. "Dad was smart," Elijah said. "He knew they were stealing, but he was too weak to fight, so he hid what mattered." He touched the wrinkled paper still clutched in his hand. "He gave me this 3 days before he died, made me hide it in my shoe, told me to wait 6 months, then come here." Why 6 months? Because he knew they'd be watching. He knew they'd try to find anything left. He wanted me to disappear first. Let them think there was nothing. Ryan felt something breaking inside him, a wall he didn't know existed. Where have you been for 6 months? Elijah's eyes dropped to the floor. Shelters, when there's room, streets when there isn't. I move around a lot, so they can't find me. Your aunt and uncle are looking for you. Not for me. The boy's voice went cold. For what I might have. Uncle Richard told the police I stole from them, that I'm dangerous, that I ran away because I'm disturbed. He looked up. I'm not disturbed. I'm just not stupid. Ryan crouched down, eye level, the way you do when you want a child to know you're taking them seriously. Elijah, you're not going back to the streets. You understand me? That's over. You don't know me. Why would you help? Ryan thought about the question, thought about his own childhood, the years he'd spent hungry and scared before he'd clawed his way out, the people who had ignored him, the people who had looked right through him, because someone should have helped me. He said quietly, and no one did. He stood up, turned to Hendrik. I want a full security detail on this boy within the hour. I want lawyers, the best you have, starting paperwork to establish his legal independence. And I want someone to find Richard and Sarah Morgan. Hendricks blinked. Find them for what? Ryan looked down at Elijah. At this child worth $2 billion who had been sleeping on the streets while his relatives searched for scraps. For a conversation, Ryan said, about what happens to people who steal from children. 3 weeks later, Richard and Sarah Morgan were arrested. Fraud, theft, embezzlement, falsifying police reports, child abandonment. The charges stacked up like bricks in a wall that would take years to climb over. Ryan's lawyers had been thorough. Forensic accountants traced every dollar stolen from David Morgan's estate. Private investigators documented the lies told to police. By the time the FBI got involved, the Morgans had nowhere to hide. Ryan watched the news coverage from his penthouse, mugshots of a middle-aged couple who had gambled everything on the assumption that a 10-year-old couldn't fight back. They had been wrong. Elijah sat in the living room, legs tucked beneath him on a couch that cost more than the shelter where he'd slept for months. He was clean now, fed, wearing clothes that actually fit. But his eyes still carried the distance of a child who had learned too early that safety was temporary. What happens now? He asked. Ryan set down his coffee. He'd been asking himself the same question for 3 weeks. What was his role here? Benefactor, guardian, some billionaire playing savior to make himself feel better? That depends on what you want. What I want. You're worth over $2 billion, Elijah. Legally, you need a guardian until you're 18. But that guardian should be someone you choose, not someone who chooses you because of what you have. Elijah was quiet for a long moment. My dad used to say that money makes people weird, makes them pretend to be things they're not. Your dad was right. He also said, you can tell who someone really is by how they treat people who can't do anything for them. Elijah looked at Ryan. You helped me before you knew about the money, when you thought I was just some homeless kid who walked into the wrong building. Ryan remembered the moment he'd stood up without knowing why, the instinct that had moved him before calculation could intervene. I didn't do much. You looked at me. Elijah's voice was steady. Everyone else looked through me. For 6 months. People walked past me like I wasn't there, like I was a problem they didn't want to see. But you looked at me. Ryan felt something shift in his chest, the same fracture he'd felt in the bank, widening now. My mother died when I was 8, he said. He hadn't planned to say it, the words just came. My father was gone before I was born. I spent 4 years in the system, foster homes, group homes, places where no one looked at you because looking meant caring. And caring was expensive. Elijah listened. No interruption, no judgment. I got out because I got lucky. A teacher noticed me, helped me get a scholarship. One person who bothered to see what everyone else ignored. Ryan paused. I've spent 30 years trying to prove that I didn't need anyone, that I could build enough walls that nothing would ever hurt me again. Did it work? Ryan laughed, sad and honest. No, it just made me alone. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable. The silence of two people who understood something about each other that didn't need words. I don't want to be alone, Elijah said finally. I've been alone for 6 months. I'm tired of it. What do you want? The boy looked around the penthouse, at the art on the walls, the view of Manhattan, the gleaming surfaces that reflected nothing human. I want a home, not a house, not a building, a place where someone notices if I don't come down for breakfast, a place where someone asks about my day and actually listens to the answer. He looked at Ryan. Can you do that, or is that something money can't buy? Ryan didn't answer immediately. He thought about his lie. The meetings and the deals and the endless accumulation of wealth that had never filled the hole inside him. The penthouse that had never felt like home because home required something he'd forgotten how to give. I don't know, he said honestly. I've never tried, but I'd like to. Like to what? Like to learn with you. Ryan leaned forward. I'm not going to pretend I know how to be a parent. I don't, but I know how to keep promises, and I know what it feels like to be a kid that nobody wanted. He extended his hand. So here's what I'm offering. Not charity, not pity. A deal. You teach me how to be human again. I make sure no one ever hurts you. We figure out the rest as we go. Elijah looked at the hand, at this billionaire who had everything except the one thing that mattered. That's a weird deal. Weird deals are my specialty. For the first time since he'd walked into the bank, Elijah smiled, small, tentative, the smile of a child remembering what it felt like to hope. He took Ryan's hand. Okay, but I have one condition. Name it. Breakfast every morning, together, no phones, no emails, just talking. Ryan smiled back, the first real smile in years. Deal. 6 months later. The penthouse looked different, not the furniture. That was mostly the same, but there were photographs now. Elijah's drawings on the refrigerator, a basketball in the corner that they used on weekends in the park. Small signs of life in a space that had been beautiful but empty. Ryan stood at the window, watching the city wake up. Behind him he heard footsteps. Elijah appeared, still in pajamas, hair messy from sleep. Breakfast. Give me 5 minutes. The boy disappeared into the kitchen. Sounds of cabinets opening, the clatter of dishes, normal sounds, human sounds, the sounds of a home. Ryan thought about the day they'd met, the dirty kid in the bank lobby who everyone wanted to throw out, the number on the screen that had changed everything and nothing. $2.3 billion hadn't saved Elijah. Being seen had, and in the end Ryan realized that was what saved him too.